Welcome to the Online Prosperity Show. My name is Doug Crowe with All Your Brand, and buckle up. You're going to have a great time in this episode.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, where we dive deep into the real challenges our guests face, the frustrations, the ceilings, or the silence behind the success. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today I have the honor of welcoming Doug Crowe, the founder of Author Your Brand. Now, Doug, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all of mine. I mean, knowing who you are and where you've been, I can't wait to jump into this particular episode, Doug, because for those that are watching right now, Doug has actually walked through some of the darkest valleys and emerged with a blueprint for turning personal stories into powerful platforms. And he's got stories to boot, some of which are he has actually been interviewed by the FBI, the Secret Service, the FAA, and a host of other three-letter agencies all on the same day. And he's gonna probably hint to us what actually happened on that particular day. But for those that are watching, by the end of this, you're gonna see how Doug is not just a ghostwriter or an author expert. He actually brings the tsunami, and we're going to be hearing all about that. And he literally is somebody who's rewrote his own life. So expect revelations, tension, and a few how to survive that moment. And before we dig in, just make sure you subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show so that you don't miss out on any of these episodes. Now, Doug, I mean, I could go on and talk about things that I'm not even qualified to talk about. Before you started your business, Author Your Brand, who was Doug and what were you doing?
I did a lot of things. My mom used to actually collect my business cards as a young man. She had a stack of all the different things I did in my life. I've only worked at a company for about a year and a half of my 65 years here on Earth, but I've always been an entrepreneur and a dreamer and a visionary, I guess. And, my biggest career move was, it came from, I went to school and studied radio, TV, and film, had a great time. And I figured, Hollywood didn't really care for that. But I got a job at a TV station, ABC in Cleveland. And a gentleman came in for an interview one day by the name of Robert Allen, who wrote No Money Down. So after his interview was over, I go up to him and say, hey, Mr. Allen, this real estate thing sounds really cool. How do I get involved with that? Oh, just come to my high price seminar, young man. He didn't say high price, but it was high price for me. It was like $5,000 for 2 days. And I looked him square in the eye and I said, hey, that's great. I make $3.10 an hour here at the TV station. And to Mr. Allen's credit, he said, you know what, young man, go to the library and check out my book. And I did. I read No Money Down and I studied it and I sat on it for a whole year and did nothing. And a book stared at me, the spine on my shelf, staring at me every day that I didn't do anything. And so one day I'm like, I got to go ahead and practice this. So I practiced it and canceled the deal, practiced it again, bought a piece of real estate. Fast forward about another 20 years or so, I'm a multimillionaire. I've got, dozens and dozens of properties and condos and apartment buildings, office buildings, airplane. I did quite well as a real estate investor and developer and radio show host until I didn't until 2008 when the whole thing crashed, and I'm sitting on not one, not two, not 10, but 19 foreclosures, bankruptcy, divorce, clinical depression. Quite frankly, it was a really, really dark time for me. And so during that depressive state, I was reading all the books that got me here, right? That got me to that rags to riches. I go back to Zig Ziglar. He'll tell me it's going to be okay. I'll go back to, Harvey McKay and Tom Hopkins and Brian Tracy, all these guys that I studied and loved on my way up. I go back to their books now that I'm depressed and broke and, so broke that I'm washing and saving paper towels. I rinsed them out and reused them. That's how bad it was. So I'm reading their books again, putting their CDs in, and I hate these guys. They're idiots. I don't believe them anymore. I'm angry. I'm pissed. Oh, geez, Doug, most millionaires have been broke 2.2 times in their life. I'm like, yeah, they don't understand my pain. So I'm putting CDs in my car, trying to get my mojo back, and I couldn't. I just didn't like anybody anymore. And Prosper, I put one CD in after 9 months of clinical depression, and this one CD played for, I don't know, 10 seconds, snapped out of it. 9 months of depression, gone. I'm like, whoa, I'm happy, positive, and ready to rock. Who is this guy? I got to find, this is amazing. 9 months with Brian Tracy and Tom Hoppus and Zig, those guys couldn't get me up to speed, but this guy does. I go and eject the CD. I pull it out. It was me. I didn't recognize my own voice. It was a goal-setting CD I had created for my real estate students that I had accidentally popped in there, didn't recognize my voice, but it snapped me out of clinical depression. So I'm like, this is amazing. I feel good. How can I, I went from rags to riches to rags. How could I take what I just experienced and help people going from, I went from riches to rags. How can people go from rags to riches? So I developed a very unique software that did a whole bunch of cool things to help people accountable and personalize their book for them. I had a book that they take a little personality test and write down their goal, and I'd ship them a book written in their personality with their goals embedded, their picture on that cover. A text message comes in reminding them of their action steps they promised to take, a voicemail from the future. Hey, good job working back in 2025. So this whole accountability system personalized their growth journey at a very subliminal level, quite frankly. I took it to a bunch of people, Rotary, New York Life, they all loved it. I took it to a gentleman named Chet Holmes when he was still alive, very famous New York Times bestselling author. And Chet looks at this thing, he says, that's a cute idea, Doug. What do I want with a $100 product? Why don't you just write a full-size book and charge 50 grand? And I'm looking at that, $100 scale, small, 50,000. Okay, so I'll do this. So that's how I got involved with ghostwriting and publishing and marketing, and full circle, that interactive book that I created is now being relaunched with a little help from AI in January of 26.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for obviously taking us through all of that. And yeah, I just want to go back a little bit. I mean, obviously you started us off when, you had already started working within the TV and radio sort of place. There's always an allure to certain professions. Okay.
Yes.
Back then, what was the allure of wanting to be involved in TV and radio? Because some kids just want to be a fireman.
Yeah, I love movies. I'm going way back now. This is back in the 70s, but I had an old movie camera. You see the movie Super 8? You know the movie Super 8? The movie.
No, I wouldn't.
Oh my gosh.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
If any of your listeners have seen the movie Super 8, it takes place like in the 70s, a bunch of high school kids making movies with their 8mm film camera. That was me and my friends. We did that. We made our own movies as high school kids. It was goofy, funny stuff. Silent movies. We didn't have the audio because it's 8mm film. And we just loved it so much. I'm like, wow, that'd be cool. Let me explore this as a career. So I went to Northwestern, studied radio, TV, film. A lot of my friends became famous. I could mention their names. They're out in California doing big things. I went to school with Julia Louis-Dreyfus from Seinfeld. My roommate, Jonathan Glassner, wrote and produced the Stargate TV series. My friend Tom Astle wrote Failure to Launch and a bunch of other movies. So I've got friends that all went to Hollywood, had a great time. I went out there for a couple of weeks and I didn't fit in, man. I was Midwestern boy, I'm like, I'm gonna go back home. And so I get a job at a TV station in Cleveland, Ohio, ABC affiliate. And so I liked movies and TV, but when I met Robert Allen and talked about real estate and making money, I switched my career. Right about that time. It took me a year to do it, but I left the station and started investing in real estate.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you so much for opening that up for us, because then it just gives us the frame of how you then went on later on to record that CD that actually then completely changed the course of your life as well, because that connection is quite vital. So you met Robert No Money Down. I've seen, heard his books and things of that nature. It's a concept that anyone that doesn't have any financial sort of knowledge would not actually understand, because we assume and purport that, you know, being in real estate, you need a bag of money and a bag of connections and things of that nature. How did that message alone just really do it for you? And because that sort of concept is unfathomable for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm not to be bragging, but I'm a pretty creative person.
Right.
And creative real estate it combines the best of my skill set, which is, you know, getting to know people, creativity, and making money. So when I looked at a property, I always told my real estate students and myself that, you know, good deals aren't found, good deals are created. So I'll give you one example if you like stories, right? So my realtor calls me up one day and says, Doug, I got this property. It's kind of unusual, but I think they give you a good deal on it. Nobody's bidding on it yet. Oh, what is it? Oh, it's a convent. I said, you want me to buy a convent? He said, yeah, but you're creative. You can do something with it. I think it could be a 3-flat. This building had like 5 kitchens, and it was massive. It was a convent. But no one's bidding on it because no one can think like me. I'm like, I could turn this into a 3-flat for extended families. And there's a certain, you know, a lot of different cultures where the family stays together, and they, you know, grandpas and kids and nephews all stay together. So I made an offer to the Archdiocese. I'm like, well, I'd like to buy your convent, but I need to convert it to a multi-unit building. So I need, like, you know, 6 months. I'll lease it from you. I'll give you some money every month, and then I'll close in 6 months. And they said, well, you know, that's fine. We'll do it in 3 months, whatever it was. All right. So I get a contract to lease it for 3 months with an obligation to close. I didn't have any money, but I had control of the property that I pretty much took care of in about 10 days and rented it out and put washer and dryer in there that got filled up with coins every 3 days. And between the laundry and the rent that I was charging, and minus their little lease payment, it counted about 90% of my down payment that I needed 3 months later to buy the building. So the building itself created my down payment, most of it, to buy it.
Wow. That's like the whole Michelangelo statue that he says, you can see the marble here, but I can see, I'm just taking out the rocks that
great example.
Don't make the statue. Because if I would look at a convent, I'm just thinking, maybe we'll see some nuns coming out of there. I wouldn't see some dollar signs walking out of there.
I was speaking at a Robert Kiyosaki event, and I told that story, and I added a little joke to it. I'm like, yeah, I can imagine my listing after I bought this property. Hey, you know, looking for, you know, 40 nuns to rent this place to. I'm like, oh, it had to be changed. So yeah.
Absolutely. But obviously that sort of creativity takes a lot of strategy, learning, and putting together. And, you know, you've probably already answered this question because you were listening to all these other people and getting all these voices and, you know, work like that. But my question now is, you endured 19 foreclosures, bankruptcy, depression, divorce, everything else that could fall on someone, plus 2008, and all that was within a short span.
I did mention the worst part about it, Prosper. I apologize. I didn't mention the worst part. 19 foreclosures, bankruptcy, divorce. I did mention, I should probably mention now, but I had a gun on my desk for 9 months. I seriously thought about taking my own life for a good chunk of that time. So it was bad. Normally those thoughts, when you're sad or angry or depressed, that thought of suicide comes and goes quickly. Mine lingered and stuck around in my head. Totally messed me up. Sorry. I just want to make sure people understand it was serious. Yeah.
Thank you so much for obviously opening up to that. But there's that voice, like you're saying, it was lingering. But there's also another voice that might have kept you wanting to go and stuff like that. Do you remember what that voice was saying to you?
Yeah. You want to hear it? Okay. I was an atheist most of my life. And, I'm walking on the street looking at some really attractive trucks going about 60 miles an hour. And just walking around, just feeling like crap. And I look up and said, okay, all right, I give up. And had a conversation with the man upstairs. And here's what I said. I said, I'm sorry that I didn't respect you, believe in you, or talk to you for the past 50 years. You know what he said to me? And this is where I don't know about, it's a voice, it's me, I don't know. But it was funny because he said, 50 years, that's nothing in God time. Don't worry about it. So I'm like, all right, we're good. Keep going. One more day. Put your foot in front of the other.
Absolutely. I've had a guest on the show that calls that Godfidence, as in it's like the confidence that, wait a minute, this too shall pass. But if we're still talking about that voice, you also then heard a voice from the radio station or radio that was playing in your car, and that was you.
That was me. That was
now that to me sounds like a capsule that you created for yourself, and you literally filtered it through and you heard it. Is there a reason why you actually paid attention to that? Or because there's so many, the voice, the suicidal voice, the voice that was the God one, and you literally speaking back to yourself.
Yeah. The voice in the CD was funny. It's that guy snapped me out of it, and then I could be cognitively proactive. When you're in the crap, no cognitive therapy works for a lot of people. That's why there's, depressive states. That's why there's addiction. That's why we have trauma, because we can't see past ourselves. So that slap across my face had to come from old Doug, happy-go-lucky Doug, positive Doug, rich Doug, because no one else could get through to him other than my former self.
Now, Doug, some people would say this was a rebirth because 9 months it took, and it takes 9 months.
I never thought about that. Yeah.
Well, that's why you're on the Online Prosperity Show, man.
That was a tough pregnancy, dude. A tough pregnancy. I had to have a C-section on that one. I'm going to use that. Thank you for that. Well, I'll give you credit once.
So we've got a new and improved Doug.
Yes.
You're still listening to that CD in the car. What was the first thing you did when you got back home?
I tried to think of how I could help others with this. How could I take my riches to rags story, help people want to go rags to riches? And that's why I came up with this author meld thing that I'll send you an email about it when it's ready to go. It's very fascinating. It's now with AI, I'm actually being able to personalize any public domain book right now. So, for example, I'm working on a client with about 20 people for Think and Grow Rich, where every single book will be customized to that individual person, written in their personality, goals, obstacles, lifestyle. So everybody gets their own unique copy of that book, and it's written for them. They're like, oh my God, and it's updated for the 21st century. And it reads so much better when you're the co-author. You and Napoleon Hill are co-authors, right? So that's my MVP, is doing public domain books. Next year, you're going to see almost any author will be able to personalize their book for individual people.
No, before we get into the excitement of that, when you entered into real estate, there was that bar to entry, the $5,000, that you had to put down for the 2-day conference.
I didn't do it. I couldn't do it. I went and got this book out of the library. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is there was that bar to entry.
Right, bar. Yeah.
Yes, because that's what also stops a lot of people. But you found a way.
No.
Now, getting into writing and obviously
Mhm.
this publishing work that you're now doing,
Mhm.
there's also a bar to entry into it, and
Mhm. Yeah.
there's a price to pay, and that's the reason why a lot of people don't sort of
Yeah.
pursue it. Now, when you shifted from real estate to writing, were there any sort of doubts, or did you ever fear that maybe I'm not good enough to be doing this, or why would anybody listen to somebody who has not succeeded in their own right per se? Were
Right.
there any of those voices in your head since you've been hearing voices all this while?
I'd love to give you some, but the only thing that comes to mind is when you're at rock bottom, you can't get any lower. So
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, well, I'll do this. Somebody asked me about it, and I did a very small project and wrote, and they go, that's good, thank you. I'm like, I'll do another one. So it was, there's something to be said for fear and a cushion, right? When you've got a cushion, you're more likely not to do something because it's safe to stay where you are. But when you're at the very bottom, you can't get any lower. I'm living in the basement of a foreclosed home, recycling paper towels. Can it get any worse? I mean, there were
Mm.
times where I don't want to be too graphic here, but running out of toilet paper is a real thing, and it can't get worse. What am I afraid of? Someone saying no? I'm worrying about dinner.
Absolutely. Now you've built your brand,
Mhm.
also your brand to literally
Yeah.
turn people's stories into
Mhm.
legacy books, like you're talking about.
Right.
And
Right.
half of the work that you do, some people don't get to write a word themselves.
Mhm.
Now, isn't there some sort of imposter syndrome that happens when somebody doesn't do all the writing themselves, and how do you sort of address that?
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I started out with doing books for anybody. Now we really focus on, established leaders. I've written books for VP of Pepsi, for the founder of stamps.com, for former CMO of Starbucks. I've worked my way up the food chain on who I write for. So the imposter syndrome thing is not too bad. A few people who tell me, "Oh, I'm not going to hire a ghostwriter. I'm going to write it myself." Well, I can read your book and tell you you wrote it yourself because they all sound alike. I. My story, my journey, me, 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 me. Shut up. Who cares about you? They care about themselves. Why don't you write about them? So when people ask about, go write myself, I'm like, that's fine. You can write your own book. But for the love of God, get a developmental editor so it doesn't sound like your diary. So
Mm.
I probably about 10% of our clients have their own manuscripts, and we work with them to make them readable, interesting, engaging, stories, character development, arcs, tension, open loops, hooks. People who just write their own book because I want to be my own voice. Okay, that's fine, but please get a good developmental editor so it reads well. Becomes a page turner.
Absolutely. And everybody who you're writing for is listening to the radio station what's that? What's in it for
WIFM.
me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
WIIFM. And if
Right.
you're going to be writing I, then you're not writing for them. So they will wait until you're addressing them. And that's
Yeah.
going to be
Right.
never. And is that the reason why? Because when we started off, you gave me a stat about books that are written versus those that are actually read or consumed or sold. And,
Mhm.
why that is, because maybe sometimes people don't actually start or begin with a strategy in mind. They just go in, okay, I've got a pen and
Yeah.
paper, I'm
Yeah.
putting a book together.
Yeah. We spend a lot on strategy because if you don't have that, you're going to be part of the ocean of nothingness out there. The only way to make a book to make a real impact and a dent, we do this thing called vet and validate, Prosper, where we actually will take a whole month and we'll vet and validate your idea. We do some discovery calls, talk about your story, but my team will go to Amazon and we'll pull 200 three-star reviews of books, the top selling books in your category. We take three-star reviews and we don't do one-star reviews. People are just angry, and five-star reviews are somebody's mother, right? But a three-star review gives you great feedback. It says what they liked, what they didn't like, what they enjoyed, what they were hopeful for. and we copy and paste all those remarks, put it into a spreadsheet and say, here you go. Here's what your audience, your future audience, when you publish, this is what they're saying to the number one best-selling author. They liked it, but. So we take that data and say, this is what you should write about or don't write about. So make sure you're listening to your marketplace. We do a focus group on this. We test a dozen covers with surveys. We're data mining the as much as we can on the imaging, value proposition, aim, storyline. So that data comes back to us and go, okay, here's what your idea is good. We can make it better. Your story is fine. Let's pepper it with some of your customer stories. We do a lot of things to massage that. And then we can do the journalism, ghostwriting, editing, production, and of course, putting our 10,000 readers in place way before the book is written.
Now, obviously, so many people, and I speak to a lot of coaches and consultants, whenever they find a methodology or some leak of IP, they already want to put it in a book just in case somebody's going to grab it from them. And that's the way that they solidify their methodology. But from what you're saying, that literally is the wrong place to start off from. You need to start with your audience in mind.
Start and finish there. And the word IP is going away as fast as we can imagine. People who, I don't know if there's people who sell courses, right? They're all going to be gone within a year or two. Why would you invest thousands of dollars into a course when you can just prompt AI to create your own course, customized to you? Yeah, IP is people are living in the past. It's like, yeah, come on. Even my software people, your moat around software used to be the IP. No, that's going to become democratized and individualized. Like people don't even see it coming. I see it. I'm like, yeah, I can write my own. I wrote my own software that does my analysis on my 3-star reviews. Do take 2 weeks? I can do it in 5 minutes now because I wrote my own software for it. I'm not a programmer, but ask it. And it took me 2 days, but it saves me a week of human work. So I'm sorry, I just walk on a rant on the IP side, but yeah, the starting and ending and continually focusing on your customer, or in my case, my customer's customer.
Right. And speaking of customers, you work with people that have millions of customers. I mean, you've worked with clients like Apple, you've worked with NASA. I don't know if you've been to space. Is that the reason why the
not yet.
FAA was interrogating you? And you've also worked with the NFL, and these are heavyweights in their industry. What is it that they pay you for? I'm asking for a friend here.
What they pay me to tell their story better and make an impact to save, they pay me for, making them a thought leader, for getting them recognition. I use the term, I help my clients become slightly famous, because they want to be really famous. They don't work well with me because their egos are too big. But when I say slightly famous, they go, okay, I get it. I can become, instead of going to a trade show and listening to a keynote speaker, I can be the keynote speaker. Instead of me doing a marketing plan to try to sell clients, I can develop branding, positioning, platform where clients come to me. That's what they pay us for.
So you literally,
go ahead.
Yeah. So you're literally helping them just control a little stake of their little space without them, being the overly famous person, like you say, because those people, the Taylor Swifts, would then demand a lot of ego and things like that. But this goes beyond writing then. So
my impetus for this was when I had my real estate training company. I was doing outbound. We had our call center, marketing, spending money in this stuff. And I'm like, you know what? And somebody came in to do radio ads. And I said, radio ads? I'm like, how about a show? And I'm like, what? Yeah, let's do our own show instead. And I told my team, I said, we've been spending all this money on outbound marketing. What if we just spent a little bit of that and made it, can you take our company outbound marketing and make it inbound? And so the radio show did that. It was that one little piece of quote unquote, fame or authority, where after 6 months, we had a waiting list of students because we created an authority platform, radio host for real estate in Chicago. I was at ABC Radio. I was the host of the Real Estate Coach. It's one of the first real estate shows out there, actually. And because of that notoriety, clients started coming to us. We had a waiting list for students coming into our academy. So it's authority and it's credibility and it's connection, of course, most important thing.
Oh, absolutely. Now, is this when you actually realize that this method actually works, because you are now no longer having to beg for scraps, literally like what everybody else does going
Yeah.
out there. You had people coming to you.
Yeah, yeah. I work on 90% referrals. That's where it comes from at this stage of my life. When you start off, you can still do that. Actually, when I started out, oh my gosh, Author Your Brand website has only been in existence for about 5 years, but my business has been in existence for 15 years. Doug, how'd you ghostwrite books for people without a website? I just had a good LinkedIn profile and I was focusing on them. So when I have a target audience, I would go to their profile, their content, and like it and comment on it and share it and give them a little love. And when I'd message them, they knew me. They'd call, hey, you want to do a book? Yeah, okay. So most people focus on me, content, 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 social media posts, articles, blog. Well, I don't. I focus on their stuff. Hey, let me read your thing. Let me give you attention. And because of that, I develop relationships and then comes business.
Absolutely, because people always love to be seen as being
Yeah.
helpful, and they'll always support a world that they also helped to build.
Yeah. And most of them are just lying through their teeth. When they do those things, sorry, they are. They're doing those with the intent of getting something back. And it doesn't work that way. I give freely. I don't care whether you work with me or not. I have so many friends who aren't clients and will never be clients because that's not the intent. The intent is the relationships for the relationship's sake alone. From that, sometimes deals come in. I talked to an Olympic athlete 3 years ago. She's already doing compilation books, right? She talked to me, should I do a solo book? We talked for about 20 minutes. I'm like, Sherry, you've got a good thing going here and you could afford me. You could probably put in 50 grand and do this, but I don't think you need it. I think what you got going on now is good enough. She speaks at McDonald's. She's sharp, sharp gal. I'm going to be in her podcast in a couple of days. And I said, you know what? Just keep doing what you're doing. Let me send you a PDF on ways to help you make that process with your compilation book a little bit easier. Oh, thanks. 2 years later, I hadn't heard from her in a couple of years, right? 2 years later, hey, Doug, Sherry told me I should do a book with you. It's a multimillionaire guy in the East Coast, I'm like, yeah, yeah. All right. What do you want to talk about? Relationship equity. I'm like, oh my God, I love this title. So let's go about relationships. And so Richard became a client, becomes a referral that I got 2 years after giving selflessly without expecting anything in return to somebody else. So what goes around comes around, but you can't wait for it or expect it. Just give and don't worry about it. And that's when people recognize you're not needy. You don't, you still care, but I'm not a transactional person. I'm a giver.
Now, Doug, do you know how many people watched the start of this video and have already gone on to do other things and have probably watched 600 other videos while we're still at it? Do you understand what they call instant gratification? People just want something immediately. Now, please explain to me. The hardest thing of working with you means people just have to let go of that. From what you're saying, like, do clients struggle with having to wait all that while? Like, you're giving an example of something that materialized in 2 years.
Yeah. We get a book done in 9 to 12 months, but it comes along. There's things happening along the way, so they don't get too bored. We're connecting with national brands. We're connecting with associations. I'm repurposing some of their content, not all of it, because some we got to massage and whatnot. But most of my clients understand the long game. Yeah, it's going to take a year to produce I can do a fast, crappy book in a week if you want, but just use AI and somebody from the Upwork can do that. You don't need me. If you want a really serious book that your peers will respect, then you got to use storytelling and human emotion and experiences that you've experienced. And I've got to I talk to your ICP on your behalf and put them in your book so that when your book comes out, oh my gosh, they know you already. I'm developing an attraction marketing, and yeah, it takes time, but it's ongoing. And yeah, instant gratification, it's fine. My clients don't, they wait a certain period of time, but if it goes over schedule, 100% of the time, it's not my fault. It's theirs because they're like thinking about things, they get distracted, right? It's never us. We've got a team that cranks these things out according to our process, which is well defined.
Absolutely. Well, my question was really,
Okay.
these people that can wait that long?
Yeah. The average book from a traditional publisher goes through like 6 months of editing alone.
Mm.
We do front to back research, ghostwriting, editing, production, and a launch in 9 to 12 months. I've done it faster. My record is 44 days, right? We can do it really fast. You pay a little extra for that. One guy took 3.5 years to finish his book. I didn't go anywhere. I'm still around, but I'm like, come on, dude. A well-positioned book, a well-thought-out book, a well-written book, a well-researched book, one that has a launch team. You're not going to get that fast, so don't ask. Let's not be serious.
Absolutely. Now, I was just asking for Sally, who's just rolling her eyes right now, thinking, "Oh my God, like when is this going to end?" You know. So,
Well, it ends in a really good way because I'm going to put Sally in front of Procter and Gamble or National Association of whatever, and you're going to walk in there a rock star and a keynote. And if you're smart, you'll work on a workshop and some other things. And most of my people who are doing that, you're getting high 5, 6 figure contracts from these companies for consulting and stuff. So and that's just from one. So.
absolutely. That you person that couldn't wait and just put it on Amazon, and now you're getting $1 a week, just from your cousin who just bought a copy of him.
Exactly. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
So, Doug, somebody might be watching this and listening and maybe feeling, yes, of course, I might have had a story inside of me, but, well, like you were saying, if I write it myself, nobody cares, or it's too late, or, this might not be relevant, or things of that nature. What do you say to that, and how do you actually help people see the value of their whole journey?
I don't know what it is about me. Again, I don't like talking about too much, but I do have a skill to pull value out of people who don't think they have it. I'll give you a quick story on it. So I'm doing a live presentation at a Vistage meeting with about 16 CEOs. And I select one person from the audience and I interview him. While I'm interviewing him, my team is listening in on Zoom, drafting covers, table of contents, and introduction to his book, a website, everything. It's a magical experience. They don't know what's going on, the audience. But as I'm talking to this guy, all of a sudden the screen pops up. Here's the book cover. I'm like, why? Where'd that come from? My team, right? They do these things, right? And the guy I'm interviewing at this Vistage meeting was a fractional CFO, numbers guy. Like, okay, what do you want to talk about? Spreadsheets? Not really good for stories, right? So as I'm interviewing him, he starts talking about, so what drives you? Questions like you ask, what drives you? What makes you tick? How would you define your values? I go into his personal life. Oh my gosh. He opened up on something he did with his kids. I'm not going to go into it here, but half the room started crying. And I said, your book title is going to change now because people don't, it's like the Simon Sinek talk that start with why, right? It's not what you do, it's why you do it.
Why you do it. Yeah.
And in this guy's case, as CFO, yeah, it's numbers, right? But his values, what he did with his family was so powerful with the audience. Like, you know what? You can't separate the man from the mission. So don't try. Talk about that and how those values translate to how you take care of someone's legacy through finance. And I can draw that thread clearly and cleanly in a story-based format in his book, talk about himself, his values, and what he does. And it all weaves together beautifully to where someone reads that guy's book someday, they're not going to want to hire anybody other than him. So I'm able to pull out threads from people, and it could be a really small one, but even a small thread can blow up into a fantastic book. One event can create an entire brand.
That's amazing. And for you, even though you've had a track record in all these real estate and whatever you experienced, but it was that one particular CD of your voice in the future or in the past that actually made the difference for you after 9 months of struggling. Now you're helping people create or embed future voicemails into their own process and progress, and there's a lot of interactivity in what you're doing, and I feel like you've actually turned that into your hero's journey. So
it's gonna be a pretty big platform when it's launched. I mean, the MVP is right now, but it's gonna be a very exciting one. I'm gonna be able to personalize any author's book come next quarter.
Absolutely. Now, anyone can start, helping people ghostwriting as long as they can piece together a couple of words. And I'm just saying this, with utmost love and respect. But why would somebody want to come to somebody who's had foreclosures, had loss, had grief, and had gone through what they went through to then trust them with a tool that is going to be helping them up in the future?
I'll use a story to answer that question. So when I had my real estate training academy, I got approached by foreclosure.com to create curriculum for them. Me, Carlton Sheets, Tom Vu, all the big real estate guys from the last decade were all invited to create the curriculum for foreclosure.com, a big company. They must have looked at 20, 30 real estate gurus. Every single one of them came back with criminal records except 2 people, me and somebody else. That's great. However, because I didn't have any big trauma, I was not that relatable. People would come to my school, oh yeah, of course you can do it. You're a millionaire. You always think, well, yeah, but did you come from a bad background? Were you grew up poor? No, my dad was a dentist. Did you ever homeless? No. So not having any scars, it's kind of like when you hear about these 20-year-old kids becoming billionaires. They don't have any scars, life experience. I can't relate to them because they haven't gone through any crap. So the fact that I've been through that and come out of it makes me more relatable, and nobody even cares because everyone's gone through something. When you're an adult, everyone's gone through something. And that's not even on my resume. It's just something I'm telling on podcasts anyway. They look at who I've worked with. I give them free samples. I show, here's what I can do for you. They talk to me. If I have 2 or 3 conversations with a CEO or a founder and they want to do a book, they're going to hire us. We just care. We're concierge. Some of my friends in the industry, they're going on volume. That's not us. I take on 1 or 2 clients a month. That's just fine.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for that, because if you've been rock bottom, you know what it feels like to be there, and you wouldn't wish that upon your own worst enemy. And I viscerally believe that people that have actually felt that are the custodians of the future. So this whole 9 months literally happened for you, not to you, right?
Yeah. I can say that now. I didn't believe it then. I didn't believe it the years following because I'm like, but now I do see it clearly now. And the last point about that I got to bring up is when people are in their low part of their life, some people in my industry would convince them to invest with them. This is the best thing, and do payments, whatnot. I would never do that. I've had a couple of people say, it's kind of, it would make things tight right now, Doug, if I do this with you. I'm like, well, then don't do it. I don't want you to be stressed. That's not going to work for you or me. So don't do it now. Do it later. Or maybe work on some monetization. A couple of my clients have said, the book take 9 months. We could create your productize something for you and roll it out in 2 months. Maybe that product will create some revenue to afford to do a book. So creativity again, I'll find a way to make it work if they want to. But, when you're in a growth mode, you're coming out of a deep well of stuff. You shouldn't spend a lot of money on marketing, and you could just talk to people ask.
Absolutely. And speaking of talking to people that if somebody really wants to have a chat with you and figure out if you can help them tell their story better, or they're considering becoming an author, without all the stress and hustle that comes along with it. Where can they go on the internet, and maybe how can they get a hold of you?
And go a lot of places. They can go to dougcrowe.com, authorbrand.com. I got a lot of places I'm available out there. I'm also very approachable. They can just email me at doug@dougcrowe.com and just put Prosper, put your name in the subject line, and I'll know it's from them. But Doug@dougcrowe.com with an E, it works fine. At dougcrowe.com, I've got a free book about creating revenue, hidden revenue from your own business, whatever it is. And that's a pretty good book you can get for free by downloading that, and we'll be connected there. But yeah, just email me, hit me up on LinkedIn's really good. I respond to LinkedIn every couple of days. So
absolutely. And for those that are watching or listening, if you've actually had a story inside of you that you never told, maybe you can write it in the comments there. What is it and what's stopping you from publishing it? Maybe Doug can pick you up and have a chat with you regarding, the next steps. And I'll also put the links so that people can actually start getting in touch with you. Now, I know you've been hinting a lot about what's coming and what you're working on and things of that nature, but now you've brought us into your world. What are we going to be celebrating in the coming years? Or
I did one TEDx talk called "The Power of Humanity in the Shadow of AI." You can look it up, and you'll get the FBI, FAA's, Secret Service story out of me. And my second one, it's not published yet because I haven't done it, but I'm going to go somewhere. It's about mass personalization. We've been through the era of the industrial age, information age, internet age. We're entering the AI age. And the idea that, this Coke Zero, they made, 100 million of them. In the very future, there'll be one made just for me. There's already precision medicine where they'll take your DNA and custom blend a drug just for you. Mass personalization is going to happen in a lot of industries. I happen to have, I think, a really nice ecosystem in the literary industry where basically business books right now will be personalized for the reader.
Can you imagine you walking into a business book that literally speaks to you about your journey, your problems, your pains, and everything else that comes along with
in your own voice, because it's written in your own personality. And you mentioned it's print, digital, and don't forget audio. So with the person's permission, we clone their voice and give them their own audiobook in their voice. Like, imagine reading Think and Grow Rich, written by you and Napoleon Hill with your goals in there, and the audio is your own voice. Wow. Done for you. You don't have to record it.
You know what I love about that is so many of us look at other people and they'll be like, oh, that would never be me, or that could never happen to me, depending on the spectrum of what is actually happening. But if it is your own voice just saying, hey, you stop that.
For me, it's not me out. We'll see. I've tested it with the New York Life and Rotary, and everyone loved it. So yeah.
Absolutely. Now, Doug, I can't thank you enough for the time and space that you've given us today. I mean, your life story and your experience have got so much value, and I really thank you for being so open, so raw, and above all, being revolutionary. I mean, anybody in your position would have been in fetal position, going, woe is me, all these 19 foreclosures.
I did that too, just not for too long.
But you've actually showed us that cracks, we feel, are often the very places where our unique power emerges. And what you've just done is that Japanese thing, what do they call it? Kintsugi, where things that were broken have actually been mended with gold and made it much more valuable. So I can't thank you enough for the journey that you took and also sharing your story on the Online Prosperity Show today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. For those that are watching and listening, if this story resonated with you or anything that Doug shared, chances are you also have got a story to tell. So not only can you bring it to the Online Prosperity Show, but you can actually reach out to Doug and see if you can put it in book format and reach to your audience. And I just can't wait to see what you're going to do with this information. And I can't wait to read your stories after you've actually told them a whole lot better. Until next time, stay hungry for growth, build on your own voice, and stay relentless in your own transformation. Bye for now.